Welcome to Modular March. I'm Andy, this is Robbie, and we are the RollApp.
Modular March is an educational experience about all things modular. Enjoy.
Welcome back to the Modular Penguin Modular March episode today with Yishay from Dymension. Yishay, it's good to have you back, sir. Just three penguins building cool shit.
Definitely. I'm excited. And I'm excited to, see the RollApp grow into this great brand by two, base penguins. So happy to be here and happy to be part of the penguin crew here.
Yeah, I mean, last time we spoke, Dymension was just on the cusp of launching the token and kind of getting out of the gates. And I know that we kind of talked about that as being the beginning. So maybe you just want to catch us all up as far as kind of all the progress so far, and then we can dive into some more of the nitty gritty.
Yeah, definitely. So last time we spoke, it was pre-launch, I guess, and a lot of excitement. We launched something that maybe it's important to note that, we've been building for 2 years. There's a lot of code. And once you ship this amount of code and a lot of complexities, you have to do it a little bit gradual. So even in the start, we had unexpected things that we didn't know, there's so many moving parts. So you have to ship a system in the scope, in the size of Dymension in a gradual way. And this is why we figured, okay, we have to do it like our mainnet article, we're going to do the singularity point, okay, let's make sure that Dymension Hub is stable, that liquidity and bridging, everything works. And it's a big challenge. People sometimes think about it, okay, yeah, where's everything at day one? But you obviously, there's a lot of moving parts with liquidity that we've done so successfully. So I'm so happy to see it, everything flowing into Dymension, getting all the bridging connections, getting the stake acquired and distributed through the set, also very challenging, getting governance proposals. All this operation is so important for the stability of a network like Dymension, which will provide a lot of settlement properties to other blockchains. So getting this done is very important. We're at the end of this. 2D, which is the upgrade for permission RollApps, is in audit right now, and is expected to be here very, very, very soon. So I'm super excited about that. There's a lot of cool stuff coming in. eIBC, which I'm not sure how many know about how cool eIBC is and how it's going to affect a lot of the ecosystem. Actual RollApps and fraud proofs, which is insane. A lot of people are talking about fraud proofs. OP Stack has been out there, 2 years, 3 years, and we're building fraud proofs, and we're highly excited about seeing this kind of work in the wild. It's still another gradual release, but it's getting shipped, it's getting built, and it's real.
Yeah, those are other optimistic RollApps cannot say the same, but refrain from that. Now, let's dive a bit deeper into eIBC and how that is kind of intertwined with RollApps. So from my understanding, all the RollApps on Dymension are able to basically interoperate with each other through IBC, but now you're kind of mentioning your version of IBC almost, or some sort of extra compatibility. So what does eIBC mean? How does this kind of work as it's live?
Yeah, sure. eIBC, it stands for escrow IBC. So it's a protocol on top of IBC. So we use IBC as kind of the main infrastructure point in Dymension. We look at IBC as the most credible neutral protocol and kind of the TCP IP of crypto. No token, just extremely useful, battle tested. So why aren't we using just regular IBC is the question, but and the answer is we're using IBC from the hub to all the rollups. It's IBC, it's just regular IBC, and from the rollups to the hub, it's something that we call eIBC, and it's a very cool innovation because it actually hits like two birds with one stone. So the problem with optimistic rollups, right, is the fraud-proof dispute period and the kind of ability or the assumption is that somebody's running or validating the rollup. So what eIBC does is, in essence, it's like an intent-based bridge where if somebody wants to get out of a rollup, he shoots out an IBC message, it gets to the Dymension hub, it gets escrowed, and then if somebody wants to pull you out, he just sends the funds for you and you get them on the hub while he takes the risk. So everybody could do that. It's an open market. It's basically a market for future receivables, if you want to think about it that way. And you get, instant withdrawals, and you get somebody who needs to verify the rollup to reduce the risk to zero. So Andy, imagine that, Robbie's on a rollup. He wants to withdraw his 100 USDC. You're running the rollup node. You know the rollup is fine. You're going to send the 100 USDC to Robbie on the hub. And you're going to get Robbie's IBC delay transaction after the fraud dispute period. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And is it also a 7-day period?
Yes, not? but you're not gonna notice it. Like it is a 7-day period, but users are not gonna notice it. It's not. We are in the business of making the modular stack, working just in terms of UX the best possible way. We're abstracting everything. Dymension is all about creating this experience where you don't even have to know all these technicals. But essentially what happens with eIBC is either the sequencer or a market maker who knows that the rollup is safe is going to pull you out because he's going to make a small fee out of it. And from that, you're going to get, the best UX, you're going to get all the rollups verified, and you're going to get like the speed and capabilities that like a rollup has. So you're really creating a system that is super scalable. So for example, you can do ZK. We will in the future have like ZK capabilities, and you could choose, but essentially an optimistic rollup in terms of performance is just way more performant. So once you have somebody verifying it and you don't have any fraud proof time, it's the best, it's one of the best architectures that I can think of.
Is this similar to the intent-centric bridging solutions that are out there now where a market maker will fill someone on the destination chain and then they'll take that? Okay, yeah. So they're essentially providing that fast path, right? Where the canonical way is traditional IBC, and that's kind of like the slow but very, very secure path. And in order for to get users the best experience, we have this eIBC to provide a fast path, give users their funds quickly, and then these fillers are repaid. They take the slow path and they make a fee out of it.
Exactly. Perfect. And the slow path that they're taking is actually IBC. What you're doing is you're basically selling them your delayed IBC for getting the liquidity immediately. You're not even, it's not even taking a risk for you. You're getting it immediately.
Yeah. And I think we've seen that this is the solution that users want for interop. It provides bridge transactions. I've seen less than a second before in some of these intent-centric solutions. So to hear that is the interop solution for RollApps on Dymension, I think that's extremely positive. Now, could you kind of tell us what is the landscape for RollApps on Dymension now? What kind of what's coming up next? Mainnet launched maybe 2 weeks ago. And now it seems like there's a grants program that's happening on Dymension, and there's a ton of things that I imagine are going to be coming into the fold pretty soon. What are some of the technical innovations or use cases or apps that are coming to Dymension that aren't really possible anywhere else?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm super excited about the funnel that we built in Dymension. Contrary to other ecosystems, or like what I want to focus on in terms of Dymension, is that Dymension provides liquidity and users for the rollup. So this is kind of the package that we wanna showcase here. Dymension is kind of this blockchain marketplace where you come with your own blockchain or your own app, and we connect you to users and liquidity. And what's important about that, we also expose these rollup builders to all these dime stakers and to the community, and help them with everything, like everything from A to Z. They're getting all the support, and we're doing this funnel. Now it's kind of the first time, so we're trying to make it like as perfect as possible for it to be like a mean machine of like, okay, you're constantly going to get these new rollups, new innovations, like we're seeing with NIM. There's a lot of cool stuff coming up. I don't want to spoil it, but there's like this very nice funnel of gradually building in rollups into the Dymension ecosystem until we get this very mature rollup environment, and then we just pull the plug and say, guys, everything is permissionless. We're not governance is not going to interfere, and this is what makes Dymension kind of mind-blowing in terms of how it scales exponentially without no like interference of governance or anything like that. And this is why I'm so like bullish about like the I'd say the underlying aspects of Dymension, where we just say like human ingenuity is gonna make sure that we're gonna see a lot of cool stuff. People by nature, when you give them the capability to connect to liquidity and users and build their own chain, that's something that's pretty incredible. Like you don't have that I'd say any other place. If you're deploying a rollup on Ethereum, you're deploying a rollup on Ethereum. You don't get like the same community, I'd say same community push that Dymension brings to the table. Yeah, in terms of like use cases and very cool stuff that are coming, I really recommend people to look into NIM. Like NIM is doing something that's gonna twist a lot of heads, and I'm super curious to see how this turns out. There's also rivals. There's a lot of AI use cases coming into Dymension. I'm a big fan of having fun and playing around with games, and like my motto is for Dymension UX is deposit, play, withdraw, and yeah, very curious to see where all of this is going.
Yeah, and I think the cool part about NIM specifically is these kind of AI agents being able to interoperate amongst all these different kind of, I guess, rollups as well. And that's enabled through this eIBC and this kind of intent-based interoperability mechanism, which I think is super cool.
Yeah, for eIBC, actually, I didn't even know like it's intent-based. We had in mind the solution we had this problem for a long time, like a year ago, even more, like I'd say like maybe 16 months ago. I always kept thinking, okay, how do we, get through the issue of people waiting? It's not, nobody's going to wait. Nobody is waiting in technology. Technology always moves forward. So we have to create the solution. And then we came up with eIBC. Before I didn't even know what intent means. Like intent is kind of a new word. And now that we have these intent-based bridges, I understand that, okay, this is it. So so it's interesting to see, how you get into a problem, you create a solution for it, and there's like all these different variations for it already.
Yeah, and I think this idea for the community is like, okay, I get to stake my dime or my DIM, and then I get access to these different applications, whether it be through like token distributions or just access from the base layer, and kind of for us, it ends up making it a much easier ecosystem to interact with, which is ultimately kind of the end goal. When these rollups are talking to the team about launching and things, what kind of questions are they asking about the users, about the community, about the stakers, about liquidity, and kind of how are you helping to facilitate more in-depth, the successful launch of RollApps on DIM? Because again, from my perspective, the success of Dymension is ultimately how many really damn good applications we can build on top of it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So obviously, this is new to us as well. Taking a rollup from A to Z is something that we want to be the best at. And I'd say this, like, we deployed a chain, right? It's hard. We did this like on testnet. We did this on we did this for like a year. So we came to the understanding of how you need to do these things, not just on a technical level, but also from a community level, also from like I'd say a liquidity level. What's the infrastructure that's needed? RPC endpoints, block explorers, connections with exchanges, bridging, all of that. It takes a lot of ops and it takes a lot of experience. And now that we've done that for quite a while, we try to get the best pinpoints that we learned, and we try to commoditize it and help like everybody who wants to have their own chain, their own ecosystem, their own like mini ecosystem within Dymension, with their block explorer, with their chain, and we try to perfect it. And this is, I think, what contributed to our success on testnet is we scaled the operational overhead that it takes to deploy a chain, and we brought it into something that's very easy, very fun, and very, very exciting for people to interact with. We're trying to do the same thing right now on mainnet, and yeah, we're looking forward to being good at that as well, and to bring a lot of projects.
I think we've gone almost this entire conversation without saying the word modular. So I want to talk about the modularity of Dymension. And there's a really cool article that you guys put out there kind of describing the transformation from a singularity, from that single point to 2D, 3D, and then 4D. Could you talk us through that progression? You guys, went through the singularity, the genesis of Dymension. Now we're in this draft phase for 2D permissioned rollups. Could you talk us through what happens from 2D to 3D and then 3 to 4D?
Yeah, sure. I think a lot, of Dymension is coming together so nicely, even like with like envisioning like, okay, what is the singularity point? It's like the genesis point, it's the start, it's somewhere stable that you start with, and then you add another dimension. And what happens when you add another dimension? There's more things that you want to make sure that are being built correctly. And this is what the 2D phase is. So upgrading the code base to 2D, this is real money. This is security. This is a lot of code auditing that we're doing to make sure that everything is stable and safe. And we don't want to, go from a point where we have one L1 blockchain, which is a challenge by itself, to having 10,000 chains that we're securing. It's a gradual process, and 2D is a part of it. So I'd say that's kind of coming up right now. But what's interesting is the 2D to the 3D phase, where you're actually going to have fraud proofs in the wild. People are going to deploy rollups permissionlessly with an enshrined bridge into the Cosmos ecosystem, enabling IBC connection to the entire IBC network. And all of this is going to just work permissionlessly. It's gonna imitate like a server coming into the internet. If you think about the internet like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when it all started, we hope to see that it's going to grow very organically and very exponentially with our architecture. I'd say the difference between 3D and 4D is a lot of surprises that we have in mind of how we create this circular economy and how we create an ecosystem that is very sustainable. But there's lots to come, and we haven't spoken. We didn't say modular one time, but the future is modular, and we're gonna showcase that modular also means that the UX improvements are gonna reach like every user and every builder.
Yeah, and I think that like what we're getting at here is that this modular ecosystem is going to expand, and Dymension's playing a part of it with your kind of roadmap going from where you are with kind of these permissioned deployments all the way to just kind of anybody can come in and do things in a very streamlined fashion. And I think outside of Dymension, there's going to be a big expansion of modular tooling infrastructure coming live. I'm curious if you guys are able to collaborate or interoperate with some of the other modular stacks coming out, or partners, whether it be like RPCs like like Lava, or like interoperability protocols like Hyperlane Union, or some of these alternative VM rollups? If there's like, I'm just generally curious what your perception is on how you plan to either compete or collaborate with these all these different projects launching in the next 6 months. I think this modular expansion is really about to unfold. And so I'm curious how you see it playing out and where Dymension kind of fits and competes and collaborates.
Yeah, I think like being modular is actually, you know, the center of it all. So being modular means that you focus and you build the best component that you can, and you integrate other modular systems to create the best solution. And this is the, you know, this is what modular means in essence. With that said, you don't have to integrate, you don't have to partner up with everybody if it doesn't really make sense for you, right? You want to make sure that you are capable, that, you know, others, you know, other builders or other infrastructure providers could integrate Dymension or could integrate any other modular solution, so we can cooperate and have this diverse, or I'd say, you know, bigger choice kind of stack, where like on like front end technologies and back end technologies, you can shift them and you can play around with them. This is the goal. But with that said, like, you can't, for example, if we're doing IBC, it doesn't make sense for us to integrate a lot of like bridging providers, right? We believe that IBC is like the core bridging aspect of Dymension, so it doesn't make sense for us to cooperate, like in terms of getting other bridging providers. In terms of LPC, yeah, Lava makes a lot of sense. Lava is very interesting. In terms of DAs, getting as much DAs as possible is great. And there's other kind of creative solutions that are coming up, and, you know, we're very much thrilled to cooperate with everybody in the modular ecosystem, but it needs to be with a purpose that actually benefits the user. This is something that is super important for me. Like, we are in this to create an abstraction and to create the best experience for users. Users, for all they care, they deposit, they just have the great experience as if they're on a Web2 game or website or financial application, and then they could safely withdraw their money or their value to their wallet.
Yep. And I think go ahead.
Yes, sorry. So will rollups, so the rollups that are launching now, they're going to settle their data to Dymension, but you're saying that you know, that future rollups, or even the ones now, could switch to Celestia, Veil, Near, Eigen, et cetera. Like, those rollups will be able to settle to a modular DA layer?
So the way that the Dymension architecture works is a rollup can choose where they want to post data, right? It's just like choosing a database, for example. I know obviously a DA is not equivalent to data storage, but just for the purpose of explaining it, you know, easily, you're building a web application, you need a place to store data, you need a place that calculates or, you know, acts as a server, and you need a place for users to interact with your app. So on Dymension architecture, RollApps builders can choose where they want to post data. So that's very important. So we can have Celestia, for example, could have other interchain providers, and then they could choose which VM they want to use. For example, they want EVM, they want WASM, in the future SVM, maybe Fuel. There's a lot of providers working on the execution innovations. So this is where kind of the modularity hits, that you can choose each part of the stack according to what fits you and according to what fits your use case the best. And this is why I believe that, like, modular is not the question of, you know, if it's going to happen. It's just a question of when it's going to be fully mature.
Amazing. And I think we're seeing it play out in real time. With modularity in general, we're seeing these solutions start to get built, and the connectivity to these infrastructures start to get built. On Dymension specifically, we're starting to see that upgrade from 1D to 2D. Obviously, that calls for some sort of interop, even more so from 2D to 3D when Dymension goes permissionless. I want to talk a little bit, and I realize we're running tight on time. So could you just kind of take us through, like, what the liquidity looks like? Dymension's unique design here allows for apps, RollApps to get this liquidity and this user base from the Dymension hub specifically. So like for the builders out there listening to this video, they're looking at Dymension, they see this abundant liquidity and users that are available for building on Dymension. What is like the game theory? What is the incentive mechanism design for builders to build these RollApps on Dymension?
That's an amazing question, because I feel like you have to have, like, every startup has to stimulate growth and provide the capabilities. So, what we're doing is, first of all, we're giving the ability for builders to have, to have users, to have liquidity. You're building an app. If you're just building out there, it's very hard to connect to users. It's very hard to get there. So a good example would be on Amazon, right? You're selling shoes, and somebody, searches for shoes, and gets to Amazon, it gets to your shop, and he can buy it, and Amazon takes care of shipping. It takes care of all the logistics. But if you're just building a website on the internet, it's very hard to reach you. And this is what Dymension brings to the table. It gives you this A to Z kind of experience, where if you're building a blockchain application, you're getting your infrastructure, you're getting access to the users, and you're getting access to the liquidity. Getting back to your question, Robbie, is how do we incentivize? How do we do that? So first of all, liquidity is key. Like, money, settlement is where money lives. And you want to be close to that. You want to have the ability for all this money to come into your RollApp and to use your services. This is something that's very important for us. And what we do is, in the 3D phase, you're going to get incentives for bringing TVL to your RollApp. This is something that I believe is going to be crucial, because if your RollApp is succeeding, right, you're attracting capital, you need more capital to grow. And Dymension, as a protocol, has this budget to subsidize these rollups and to bring that liquidity into the rollups and to reward them. And this is a flywheel effect. On top of that, the Dymension, I'd say the Dymension application, as well as the blockchain, we enable all these rollups, or just anybody actually, to incentivize the pairs. So if you go right now to portal.dymension.xyz, get into any pair, right? Any pool. You can say, you know what? I'm incentivizing the Dime Stride pool. Why? I don't know. I want to incentivize it. Maybe it's my token and I want to get it distributed to these LPs. Maybe it doesn't matter. The point is, we're giving good tools and good ways for RollApp developers, first of all, to attract liquidity to their native token if they wish to do that. Second of all, to get attention. And obviously to get the capability of actually moving the liquidity of their token or other tokens like USDC or valuable assets to their RollApp. And this is something I think that is very unique to Dymension. Like the aggregation layer, I know that Polygon is also doing something like this, that they call it the ag layer. I find it very similar to Dymension, to be honest. But Dymension does this kind of on the L1 native layer with the enshrined AMM and with the enshrined rollup bridge under one chain.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of like Barachain proof of liquidity in a sense. Different models, but kind of an idea around A, permissionless liquidity, and B, just kind of always having deep books for users on chain, which I think is crucially important. So Yishay, any kind of closing thoughts as we wrap up here?
I'd say this. The more we go forward in Dymension, the more I feel that we're getting closer to a product that is built for users and is built for builders, both at the same time. We want to be pragmatic. We want to allow people to build things that people like and to have the best experience. And this is why we're focused on building, and this is why we're doing what we're doing. We're not building for the tech, we're building for the users. We're building the tech for the product and the users. And I'm excited to see a lot of cool stuff coming up, which you're going to see it very, very soon. A lot of surprises, a lot of interesting aspects, and a lot of things to wait.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. And Penguins, just keep building. We are the builders PFP. That's it.
Definitely. Appreciate the time, guys. Always a pleasure. You know, I'm waiting for the next one that we're doing when 2D becomes closer to 3D, and we'll keep on doing this every upgrade.
Sounds great.